When a playground encounter with a self-proclaimed authority figure threatened my son's joy, I never expected to turn a simple afternoon into a showdown that would challenge both our identities and community. Before we begin today's insane story, show some love if you've ever survived a wild Karen meltdown. Drop a like and let me know your craziest Karen run-in you've had down in the comments. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another jaw-dropping showdown. As the dust settled on Karen's unexpected declaration of interest, the atmosphere around us resembled that of a thrilling amusement park right after a roller coaster plunge. Laughter erupted, spinning tales as wildly colorful as the booth decorations strewn around us, with an undeniable shift in Karen's demeanor. No longer wielding her authority like a sword ready for battle, she stood vulnerable, as if wrestling with a newfound curiosity that had slipped in through the cracks of her brusque exterior. Wouldn't it be delightful if her icy shield had finally melted under the heat of camaraderie? A tiny part of me, encouraged by the audience's laughter, began to wonder about the possibilities of this convoluted tête-à-tête transforming into a buddy comedy about an overly serious woman and her unintentional voyage through the carnival of cultures. I took a deep breath, relishing the laughter and feeding off the communal vibe, which had long eclipsed Karen's previous chilly presence. Like a confident chef spotting fresh ingredients, I had my work cut out for me. Karen, let's get you that taco confession you didn't know you needed. You get one question regarding culture while eating, and if you're brave enough, you must answer honestly, I exclaimed dramatically, waving my arms as if summoning a community spirit we all desperately craved. Cue Maya, ever the clever friend, taking a step back to capture the unfolding scene, her camera clicking like it was going out of style. The thought of capturing a slice of this glorious chaos made my heart leap. Surrounded by laughter and inquiry, I couldn't help but envision a whimsical talking head montage. A hilarious recap of Karen's reluctant journey to learn about cultures through taco-inspired revelations. Neighbors grinned while I proudly presented her with a taco stuffed to the brim with vibrant, zesty flavors that practically danced off the plate. But remember, you have to pretend this taco is a time machine, I quipped, feeling the humor bubbling inside. One bite will take you to Mexico, and another to Japan, so be careful where you chew. Suddenly, the reality shifted, and Karen's skeptical smirk cracked into an incredulous smile that was both bizarre and spectacular in its own right. With each awkward chew, it was as if new layers were peeling back, revealing the underlying humanity that had been stifled under her authoritative persona. But what came next was delightfully unexpected. As she munched, a golden brown taco piece slipped from her fingers, splattering salsa like a Picasso painting onto her bright blazer. Gasps of horror transformed into laughter with the ferocity of an exploding firework. Oh, Karen, what a way to start your cultural endeavor. Are you trying to leave your mark, or should I say taco art, on our festival? I shouted, my laughter infectious, stirring the crowd into a hysterical frenzy. There she was, making an unintentional fashion statement that would inspire its own line of jackets. Instead of retreating, she caught my eye and, to everyone's astonishment, threw her head back and laughed. The children present erupted into fits of giggles as she attempted to wipe the remnants off her collar, brightening the tableau like a sunrise. As the crowd rallied around Karen, sharing their stories and culinary secrets in the vibrant chaos, I found myself engaging in a heartfelt discussion with Maya, my ever-supportive, bold cheerleader. "This is unreal," I exclaimed, unable to suppress my charm. Who knew that the recipe for cross-cultural understanding was a taco catastrophe? She winked, wielding her camera again for a close-up of Karen, who had morphed from antagonist to the accidental queen of the potluck. I contemplated the sheer absurdity of this situation, laughing not just at the irony, but at the company of so many brilliant minds, all coming together against the backdrop of a perfectly executed cultural roast, topped with a nutty blend of humanity that would leave a lasting impression on Karen. Then, just as I began to think we were skimming the surface of a new comedic reality show, I found Karen preparing to address the crowd yet again. Okay, truce," she said, finally stepping into the center of attention, as the laughter morphed into curious anticipation. Who would have guessed that sitting at the intersection of hilarity and redemption was the stroke of genius Karen desperately needed? A collective hush settled over the crowd, a stillness that crackled with the stinging joy of vulnerability. I understand now that my perceptions were off. This taco explosion isn't just messy. It's what being part of a community should feel like. You guys have embraced me despite my unfortunate first impression, she admitted, her sharp blue eyes shimmering with genuine warmth. As she clapped her hands for emphasis, the crowd erupted into loud cheers and claps, transforming the grounds into a jubilant stage for what would later be referred to as the taco taming. For a moment, I allowed myself to bask in the collective achievements of this spontaneous gathering, each voice lifting marginalized stories and dissolving racial tensions, with Karen backpedaling on her prior authority, now on a pathway of enlightenment. As I glanced at my son, watching in awe of the parade of connections swirling around him, I finally recognized the quintessence of this wild roller coaster ride. We had embraced the notion of unity through the absurdity of human experience. Who knew a simple reminder to taste compassion could lead to all this triumph? Ultimately, what began as a frustrating encounter morphed into an unforgettable celebration of humanity, leaving me bubbling with joy over the unique threads of connection woven into the community tapestry. What a wild, flavorful ride it had been indeed. It was one of those perfect Saturday afternoons where the sun painted everything in gold, and my son Jin was the epitome of joy as he chased his friends around the playground, speaking Korean like a little language maestro. Honestly, it should have been a scene straight out of a family-friendly movie. But then, from the depths of entitlement, she appeared, Karen, a walking billboard for bitterness. With her slicked back hair and an outfit that screamed, "I need to speak to your manager," she stormed onto the playground like she owned the place. I half expected her to whip out a whistle and start directing traffic. Just as Jin's laughter echoed like music, Karen's voice cut through the air like a knife. "You need to speak English, young man," she blurted out, her disdain almost tangible. It was like she thought we were all part of some failed sitcom sketch. My immediate reaction? Flabbergasted disbelief. I quickly grabbed my phone, instinctively hitting record as I thought, this is going to be the most ridiculous encounter of my life. Who gives her the right to dictate how others should freely express themselves, especially in a lively playground where cultural exchange is richer than any fast food combo? As I watched Karen puff herself up, ready to lecture a group of elementary school kids about language etiquette, I struggled to suppress the urge to laugh. Was she always this clueless? Or was it a Saturday special? Meanwhile, Maya, my trusty sidekick in combating Karen like monsters, had her camera poised, ready to capture this fiasco. She looked at me, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Don't you love it when they just serve up gold like this?" she whispered with a smirk. And honestly, it was hard not to chuckle. Just then, I heard Jin ask one of his friends, "Can we play tag now?" And that just sent Karen orbiting further into a frenzy. "This is unacceptable," Karen screeched, her sharp blue eyes narrowing at Jin. "You're being aggressive, and it's inappropriate." I couldn't help but cringe at her idea of aggressive. If anything, my son was as aggressive as a flower blooming in the spring. "Excuse me, ma'am." I decided it was time to interject, waving my arms theatrically like a conductor guiding an orchestra gone wrong. "My son is just playing, having a blast. What's aggressive about that?" The absurdity of the moment struck me. The idea that a child speaking in their native language could somehow be translated into aggression was almost too wild for words. My kid wasn't brandishing a sword. He was sharing giggles and joy, proving that language should never strangle childhood exuberance. Karen, clearly unamused, was not expecting my defiance. She looked as if I had just uprooted her favorite fern and set it on fire. Her expression morphed into a mixture of disdain and indignation. "Well, you need to ensure he learns proper etiquette," she retorted, as if her demand was written in some sacred script that only she had access to. I exchanged incredulous glances with Maya, who was now laughing so hard, I half worried she'd drop her phone. "Sorry, Karen," I replied, my voice dripping with faux formality. "But I imagine a little cultural variety could do us all a favor. You know, diversify that narrow worldview of yours." That zinger sent a ripple of laughter through the onlooking parents, who were suddenly invested in this live spectacle. And wouldn't you know it, the universe decided to bless us with a twist of fate. Just as Karen opened her mouth to stutter out another demand, the local news crew rolled right past us. Count that as fate delivering an extra sprinkle of karma? They had set up shop close by, capturing the vibrant life of the park, because apparently, wholesome family moments were all the rage. Maya instantly switched into superhero mode, turning the recording of our confrontation into silver screen potential. "Ethan, get her on camera. Let's show the world how ridiculous people can be," she exclaimed, and in that whirlwind moment, I felt an electrifying surge of determination. What this woman needed was not just a reality check, but a full-on awakening, a public reveal of her outlandish self-importance. As Jin continued to focus on his play, oblivious to the absurdity unfolding, I adjusted my stance, rallying to become the unexpected star of the show. I could feel the energy building around us, spectators leaning in like they were waiting for a grand reveal. "Hey, Karen, mind if we air out your thoughts on our primetime television special?" I joked, feeling the laughter swell behind me. The camera zoomed in closer, and I could see the colorful logo of the news channel igniting the scene. Karen grew redder than a ripe tomato, actively debating whether to storm off or try and regain her lost authority. I mean, how could I resist? Wasn't this better than therapy? Let's drag her unwarranted opinions into the spotlight where they could be thoroughly roasted. The viewers were eating this up, beaming from ear to ear as they witnessed Karen going up against a father standing for his child. Suddenly, the weekend park outing morphed into a cultural standoff, a comedic standoff that would surely garner thousands of memes. Just then, the anchor, who had been caught up in the escalating amusement, took the chance to step in, looking both horrified and amused. "Ma'am, I think it's best we celebrate the diversity of our community rather than enforce standards that only serve one narrow perspective." Did I hear that right? The world was leaning in to support us, to call out Karen's nonsense in a way I dared not dream. I could practically feel the applause ringing in my ears as I responded with exaggerated bravado. "Thank you. Exactly. The world is too colorful for just one language, and I wouldn't want it any other way." My heart raced with excitement. Was this really happening? As I stood in the eye of the storm that was Karen, with cameras rolling and parents crowding around like it was the Super Bowl of parental confrontations, I couldn't help but think about how absurd this all was. Karen's fusillade of half-baked opinions was being aired out for anyone willing to tune in, and the stakes were hilariously high. I mean, what self-respecting parent wouldn't want to throw a spirited defense of bilingualism in front of a live audience? Maya adjusted her camera mischievously, aiming for the perfect angle to capture the crescendo of chaos and laughter swirling around us like confetti at a New Year's party. "Make sure you get my good side," she jested under her breath, causing me to stifle a giggle. Watching her shenanigans made me feel like we were characters in some outrageous sitcom rather than living out what should have been a serene Saturday in the park. Meanwhile, Karen, bless her heart, looked like a cartoon character about to explode. Her face, still flush from the first wave of my verbal sparring, twisted into a kaleidoscope of confusion and fury as she struggled to develop a comeback. It was as if she had suddenly found herself in a game of chess, realizing far too late she'd stepped onto a battlefield without any pawns left to defend her. This is just ridiculous," she shot back, almost tripping over her own indignation. It was quite the spectacle. I could practically hear the collective gasp from the parents watching. Honestly, it was exciting to witness the transformation of what could have been an emotional showdown into a full-blown community spectacle. I wasn't just a dad defending his kid. I was leading a revolution against ludicrousness right in front of Karen's blue-eyed facade of superiority. The cheerful chirping of the birds and the laughter of children faded into the background as I took a deep breath, channeling this whirlwind of chaos into an opportunity. "You know, Karen," I said, leaning in closer, "maybe you could take this as a chance to learn something, like kamsahamnida, which means thank you. It's always nice to know a few words in another language, don't you think?" The crowd erupted in a chorus of laughter, reveling in the levity of my challenge, while Karen stood there frozen, her mind clearly racing at warp speed to find a rebuttal to this mounting wave of ridiculousness. Watching the astonishment sweep over her face was like witnessing a slow-motion film of her slow demise. Who would have imagined that a simple playground could turn into the stage for an impromptu linguistic lesson? Suddenly, a gasp resonated in the crowd as another parent chimed in. "Hey Karen, why don't you take a seat and let Ethan handle this like a pro?" The applause that followed made Karen's stony expression resemble that of someone who had just lost control of a roller coaster ride, with good luck finding the brakes. I had to push a chuckle back down my throat, realizing more and more that I was no longer alone in the battle against Karen's dramatic tirade. Who knew that a group of onlookers could band together like a team of superheroes, united under the banner of common sense? At that moment, the park felt less like an arena of chaos, and more like a stage where the spirits of inclusivity and laughter reigned supreme. Blinded by her stubbornness, Karen escalated further, her attempts at authority merely inflating the hilarity of the scene. "I won't stand for this nonsense." With flailing arms and dramatic flourishes akin to a Shakespearean actor, she attempted to rally the parents around her. But she was met with resounding cheers for diversity, which only made her falter more. "I bet you're doing this for the camera, right?" she barked, grasping at straws and misunderstanding a crowd that was ready to burst with applause for the unapologetic display against her narrow-mindedness. I felt like I was riding a roller coaster. Every twist and turn added to the thrill of the moment. "Oh, you'd better believe it, Karen," I shot back. "The world deserves to see what a lack of understanding looks like in HD." As the laughter crescendoed, something in the air shifted. The local news anchor, now thoroughly invested, stepped in with a grin that could light up the darkest corners of the world. "Karen, your voice is valid, but isn't it also essential to embrace the community around us? It's about acceptance and celebrating those cultural differences. This is what diversity looks like." My heart soared as I realized I wasn't just representing Jen. I was embodying something larger. Suddenly, Karen's voice was tinkling like wind chimes in an ill breeze, vacillating between retreat and defiance. The playground, full of tiny giggles and multicultural laughter, stood as a testament to what society ought to be. As if on cue, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, echoing my sentiment flawlessly. With the finality in the atmosphere and the energy charging around us, I leaned into my moment, a wave of confidence washing over me. "And just so you know, Karen," I began, holding my ground while pointing for dramatic effect, "my son will continue to express himself as he wishes, without needing your approval. We're raising a generation that speaks multiple languages, not just English." The chuckles that rippled through the parents felt like a chorus rejoicing for freedom against the rules of outdated entitlement. With that, Karen, equipped with nothing but fervor and a hunk of wounded pride, threw her hands up in the air and stormed off as the crowd erupted in cheers. I had done it. The playground wouldn't just remember the confrontation, but how a small family could stand up against the absurdity of entitlement without breaking a sweat. As I turned to face Jin, who had been blissfully unaware of the spectacle unfolding around him, I felt like the champion of fatherhood. "You ready for round 2 of tag?" Jin yelled, his tiny face beaming with happiness and laughter, untouched by the craziness just minutes before. And who could blame him? I chuckled at how innocent and wonderfully oblivious he was, a bright light amidst the absurd drama. Maya snapped a final selfie with me, a snapshot of victorious camaraderie and genuine joy. "Let's just caption this fatherhood. 1 Karen, 0. And with that, we couldn't help but burst into shared laughter. Veneration for diversity echoed throughout the park, and I felt lighter than air. All I could think was that if Karen had any more sense than a brick, she'd either rethink her attitude or sit the next season out. Either way, the glow of the afternoon was as invigorating as a sunbeam on a summer day. And somewhere in the background, a duo of siblings eagerly played tag, their laughter threading through the community like a gentle reminder that there's beauty in variety, laughter in confrontation, and power in standing up for what is right. As the dust settled and cheers echoed around me, I felt the high of triumph radiating from within. It was as if I had just won an award for Best Father of the Year on a wildly popular reality show, a title that would be plastered across the tabloids tomorrow. I couldn't help but let out a hearty laugh while thinking about how, just a few minutes ago, I was about to become embroiled in a battle against the most absurd brand of entitled ignorance that the universe could muster. Maya, clearly in tune with my euphoric vibe, nudged me. "Hey, look at you, Dad, defending bilingualism like a superhero. Maybe you need a cape." I raised an eyebrow, grinning widely at the image of me zooming through the park, cape flapping in the wind, fighting off ignorant comments one Karen at a time. Who knew standing up for my son would be this exhilarating? But the moment of victory morphed into something else, a curiosity simmering within me. "Maya," I said, excitement bubbling under each word, "I need to find out more about this Karen character. Who is she, really?" Determined to unearth the details behind her glaring comments, I pulled out my phone and began to scroll, half expecting her to have a scandal or two under her belt. It didn't take long before the digital rabbit hole led me to her LinkedIn profile, highlighting that Karen was a vice president at a prestigious PR firm. Oh, the irony. My fingers danced over the screen as I sent the link to Maya, who gasped dramatically. This woman has zero idea of how the world works. If anyone needs a dose of humility, it's Karen. The absurdity was mounting, feeling like I was caught in a sitcom plot twist that was waiting to unfold beautifully. With each passing second, my mind whirled with deliciously scheming ideas on how to take Karen down a notch, with a splash of good humor included, of course. Why not take her entitled behavior and turn it into a lesson for all those who thought they could dictate how we express ourselves? Wouldn't it be hilarious to set up a pop quiz on cultural sensitivity for Karen and broadcast it live on social media? I suggested, and Maya burst into laughter, her curls bouncing as she imagined the scenario. "Let's get the neighbors involved. We can turn this into a full-blown talent show of kinds, showcasing all the awesome languages and talents around." The challenge felt like a thrilling adventure. The idea of turning a negative into a positive energized me beyond belief. And let's be honest, this was uncharted territory for Karen. As thoughts of language spreading like wildfire crossed my mind, I began reaching out to some of the neighbors who had witnessed the event. I reminded myself that the parents in the crowd were our allies now, and uniting against such absurdity needed a party atmosphere. My phone kept buzzing, each message coming in like an enthusiastic crowd, giving us the thumbs up. I could already envision it, a cultural celebration, a platform for laughter, unity, and a vibrant melting pot of stories. I could almost hear the cheers ringing out, "Take that, Karen!" The excitement of drawing in a supportive community became electrifying, as if I were a conductor at a symphony, the notes of our collective empowerment harmonizing into a beautiful symphonic piece. The days passed faster than light. When the day of our planned celebration finally arrived, the park transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors, laughter, and creativity. Maya and I decorated tables with multicultural banners, while neighbors set up booths to showcase languages, traditional food, and performances. Children pranced around, and it felt like an explosion of positivity. Here we were, a community that refused to allow ignorance to stifle our voices. The palpable energy shifted from defensive confrontation to a spirited celebration of what it means to embrace all aspects of our identities. It was truly a sight to behold. When someone mentioned a karaoke booth for languages, I couldn't suppress a huge grin. I would be the first in line to belt out Despacito in Spanish. The arrival of Karen was imminent. Her notorious reputation had followed her like a shadow, a soundtrack of dun 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 playing in my head. When she finally rolled up, her face was a mixture of surprise and indignation as she encountered a festival dedicated to everything she had tried to ridicule. "What is all this?" she exclaimed, her blue eyes piercing through the crowd like lasers. Not one to miss a beat, a neighbor waved her over, beaming as if welcoming her like she was the queen of all things absurd. "Karen, we're celebrating cultural diversity. Want to try out our karaoke booth?" The crowd erupted in laughter, and I couldn't help but feel that the universe had conspired to make this spectacle even sweeter. With every passing moment, I observed the delightful transformation of the day. Instead of being the center of a storm, Karen found herself enveloped in an unexpected wave of curiosity and laughter rather than ridicule. The respected parents rallied around her, explaining the beauty of what we were trying to promote. As each story unfolded, an invisible wall began to crack. Maybe she had a smidge of understanding hidden beneath that hard exterior. The day's events played like a roller coaster of sentiment, moving from unity to uncertainty and back again. My heart raced, not just out of anticipation for how Karen would respond, but because I could feel enlightenment weaving itself into the fabric of our little community's existence. Would this be the catalyst for Karen's transformation, or simply a blip on her radar of stubbornness? As I stood there, soaking in the vibrant cheers and joyous camaraderie around me, I touched the delicate line between humor and condescension. Sure, it was easy to laugh at the contradictions that had brought us here, but a voice in my head suggested that perhaps Karen wasn't inherently villainous. Maybe she just needed a stronger invitation to embrace diversity like a warm hug instead of a slap in the face. Could this afternoon turn into a bridge between two vastly different worlds? Did I just become a mediator in a sort of midlife redemption for Karen? Or was this simply a whimsical chapter in her notebook of life? The vibrant sky tossed colors above us as I absorbed the laughter, and I dared to believe that momentum could change even the hardest of hearts. Just as I caught a glimpse of the curiosity twinkling in Karen's blue eyes, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this would be her moment of clarity, the proverbial light bulb flicking on above her head as she seemingly navigated through this colorful maze of cultural expression. I watched as a child approached her, with a plate piled high, with homemade dumplings, vibrant fruit, and a warm smile that could melt the frostiest of hearts. "Try one," the little girl exclaimed, not seeming to notice the way Karen's eyes flickered with annoyance before softening ever so slightly. It was as if that tiny, innocent gesture had the power to breach the fortress she had constructed around her mind. I couldn't help but think that if yogurt worked wonders for the gut, perhaps a plate of dumplings could work wonders for Karen's closed-mindedness. I felt the atmosphere shift, the very air crackling with possibilities as community members welcomed her with eager smiles and tales of their rich cultural heritage. "Take this as your cue, Karen," I encouraged silently. One by one, the neighbors stepped into the circle around her, sharing snippets of their childhoods, woven with laughter and love. A lovely South American lady shared her experience of making tamales every Christmas with her family. An elderly sick man spoke about his tradition of sharing langar in the community, and even a young kid proudly demonstrated a few words in Mandarin. Each story poured warmth into the chilly air, and I sensed something akin to transformation happening. Was that the slightest hint of realization on Karen's face? Could social awkwardness just be the first step towards growth? Caught up in the wave of energy, I couldn't resist joining in the revelry. I made my way over to Karen, who was standing awkwardly with a plastic plate in her hand, still eyeing the booths with narrow skepticism. "Looks like you're about to dive into the dumpling experience of a lifetime," I teased, slipping into my charismatic hosting mode. "Just think of these as your gateway to understanding how diverse and delightful our community can be. We promise it's much tastier than football club meetings." Her flustered expression caught me off guard, momentarily transforming from stern to bemused. Maya was undoubtedly having a field day nearby, pointing her camera our way, probably capturing my Dad of the Year moment of encouraging Karen's culinary engagement. And I loved every second of it. If I thought I had acquired a knack for comedy before, I was now an improv comedian in the middle of a thrilling routine. As I pressed on whimsically, offering Karen the enticing option of deep-fried Oreos or a taco confession booth, my inner monologue couldn't help but exhibit skepticism about the unpredictability of human behavior. Would she snap into hysteria with an ill-timed comment, or embrace the whimsicality around her? Perhaps I should start mentally preparing for her potential explanation of how she was simply enforcing cultural propriety, a classic Karen mantra, which I was slightly dreading. But in that moment of levity, I focused on breathing in the laughter and embracing the connection between us. No longer the antagonist, but rather an unlikely ally in this comedic chaos. As I continued to engage with her, I could feel the tension drop like a lead balloon sinking into a sea of jello. Where we once stood at opposing ends of a battlefield, the laughter and colorful stories turned this melee into a level playing field, reminiscent of a sitcom episode. I couldn't help but see the humor in Karen's plight. There she was, awkwardly surrounded by diverse cultures, attempting to navigate her way through an array of culinary escapades, while I thrived at the intersection of comedy and camaraderie. I leaned into the moment, encouraging her to sing along to the music playing nearby. "Karen, let's see if you know any Israeli songs," a neighbor chimed, laughing. The cross-cultural kaleidoscope was in party mode, and Karen was right in the middle of it with feigned reluctance. Who would have thought that ridicule would metamorphose into an invitation for unconventional fun? Then, just as I started picturing an end scene with all of us laughing around a fire pit, pondering the absurdities of life, Karen surprised me. She cleared her throat, and with the grace of a slightly tipsy penguin trying to recite Shakespeare, she declared, "This is all interesting." The crowd burst into laughter, and I had to suppress an uncontrollable urge to do a victory dance. Did she really just admit that this strange, colorful festival might be, well, interesting? Was that an acknowledgement of our shared humanity lurking underneath her icy veneer? Something remarkable was bubbling beneath the surface, and I found myself cheering her on from the sidelines. Who knew Karen had an ounce of self-awareness nestled away in that corporate facade of hers? In the scene's crescendo, the atmosphere brimming with newfound hope and merriment, I reached into my pocket for my phone. I captured the moment on camera with a cheeky grin, ensuring that this unexpected tale would be memorialized for future generations. How delightfully ironic would it be if Karen became the poster woman for cultural sensitivity, developer of compassion, and perhaps the most unwilling but well-loved honorary participant for our community's multicultural extravaganza? Could this become her new narrative? The reluctant champion of understanding who unknowingly traded her rigid entitlement for heartwarming connection? In the blink of an eye, what started as an incident of absurdity morphed into a blossoming celebration of unity, and I was all in, emotionally bracing myself for whatever hilarity or revelations lay ahead. What could possibly go wrong next? Thanks for tuning into this insane entitled Karen story. If you're craving more wild Karen showdowns, check out our video on the right. Or if you trust YouTube's instincts, pick the one on the left. Whichever you choose, brace yourself. There's plenty more meltdown madness where today's story came from.